Wife gives birth to baby girl. Dad sees newspaper and calls 911 immediately. After countless attempts to start a family, a father's world felt complete the moment he held his newborn daughter for the first time at the hospital. He believed his family was finally whole. But soon, the joy of this new chapter would be overshadowed by a shocking revelation. A newspaper headline would catch his eye, unraveling a truth that forced him to dial 911. Before we dive into this gripping story, let us know where you're watching from today. And if you enjoy heartfelt stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. Andrew Collins stepped off the plane, his body fatigued from the long flight, but his spirit lifted by the thought of reuniting with his family after 6 long months. He navigated through the bustling airport, pulling his suitcase behind him, when a familiar face caught his eye. Ronnie, his personal driver, standing with a sign that read Mr. Collins. "Welcome back, Mr. Collins," Ronnie greeted him warmly as Andrew approached. "Thanks, Ronnie. It's good to be home," Andrew replied, offering a tired smile. As they walked to the car, Andrew's mind raced with thoughts of his wife, Amelia, and his mother, Lucia, whom he hadn't seen in half a year. Now, he had someone new to meet, his newborn baby. The anticipation of holding his child for the first time filled him with nervous energy. Once settled in the sleek black sedan's backseat, Andrew turned to Ronnie. "How are Amelia and Mom? Are they at the hospital now?" Ronnie nodded as he merged into traffic. "Yes, sir. I dropped them off earlier this morning. Everything seemed fine." Andrew sighed with relief. "It feels incredible to finally be back. I can't wait to see them, especially the baby. Anything new happen while I was away?" Ronnie hesitated for a split second before replying, "Nothing unusual, sir. Just the usual checkups and errands." Not catching Ronnie's brief pause, Andrew pulled out his phone to call his family. First, he dialed Amelia, but there was no answer. Then, he called his mother. "Andrew, darling!" Lucia's voice greeted him warmly. "You've landed safely, I hope?" "Just now, Mom. I'm on my way to the hospital to see you all." "Oh, we can't wait!" Lucia exclaimed joyfully. "Wait until you see your baby girl. She's absolutely beautiful." As Andrew hung up, he felt a wave of excitement and settled back into the seat. To pass the time during the drive, he opened his laptop, immersing himself in some work. When they arrived at the hospital, Andrew approached the nurse's station to ask for his wife's room. "Amelia Collins is in the maternity wing, room 835 on level 8, the nurse informed him with a kind smile. Andrew thanked her and made his way to the elevator. As he approached room 835, he paused for a moment, taking a deep breath to steady his nerve. He pushed the door open, and the sight before him filled his heart with awe. The room was more luxurious than he had anticipated, but what truly captivated him was Amelia sitting up in bed, cradling a tiny bundle. His mother, Lucia, bustled about, tidying the hospital bag and adjusting the baby's car seat. "Andrew!" Amelia's face lit up as she saw him. In a few strides, Andrew crossed the room and embraced her, careful not to disturb the precious cargo in her arms. "I'm so sorry I missed the birth," he murmured, kissing her forehead. "Don't worry about it," Lucia interjected, hugging her son. "The baby decided to arrive a month early. There was no way you could have known." Andrew looked down at the tiny infant in Amelia's arms. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "What's her name?" "Louisa," Amelia replied softly. "Louisa Collins," Andrew said, gently stroking the baby's cheek. "It's perfect." Noticing that Louisa was drinking from a cup feeder instead of nursing, he asked, "Is everything okay? Why isn't she breastfeeding?" Amelia looked down, a hint of disappointment in her expression. "My milk hasn't come in yet, so the hospital's been providing donor milk," Andrew quickly reassured her. "That's nothing to worry about. What matters is that both of you are healthy." As the family basked in this joyful moment, Andrew's sister, Sarah, entered the room carrying a tray of food. She was a nurse at the hospital, and her face broke into a wide smile when she saw him. "Big brother! You made it!" she exclaimed, hugging him. Andrew thanked her for taking care of Amelia and Louisa in his absence. Sarah waved off his gratitude. Of course. After all you've been through to have this baby, how could I not? The family began preparing to leave, but as they made their way to the administration desk to complete paperwork, Andrew noticed something unusual. A disheveled woman was pushing through the corridor, her voice frantic as she muttered, "My baby, my baby." Her wild eyes locked onto Andrew's group, and she began approaching. Sarah quickly stepped in front of them, her tone calm and reassuring. "Don't worry about her. She's probably a homeless woman who wandered in. The hospital deals with this sometimes. I'll handle it." Amelia tugged on Andrew's arm. "Let's go home," she urged, her voice laced with anxiety. Andrew hesitated, watching the distraught woman being led away. Something about her desperation tugged at him, but the pull of his family brought him back to the moment. "Of course. Let's go," he said, taking a deep breath. As they headed toward the exit, Andrew couldn't shake the image of the woman's face. The raw pain and confusion in her eyes lingered in his mind. He glanced back one last time before they pushed through the hospital doors, catching a glimpse of Sarah speaking urgently with a security guard. Outside, the late afternoon sun warmed their faces, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of flowering trees nearby. Ronnie, their driver, waited by the car, his face lighting up in a wide smile as they approached. "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Collins," Ronnie said warmly, adjusting the car seat in the back row. "And hello to the newest member of the family, little Mississippi." "Louisa," Amelia answered brightly, her smile radiant as they settled into the car. Andrew felt a rush of overwhelming emotions as they drove away, pure joy at bringing his daughter home, concern over the strange incident at the hospital, and a deep, unshakable love for his new family. Ronnie maneuvered the car through the bustling streets, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the city. In the back seat, Andrew felt the exhaustion from his long flight, the emotional whirlwind of meeting Louisa, and the nagging unease over the woman at the hospital. His thoughts were interrupted by a loud growl from his stomach, reminding him he hadn't eaten since his morning flight. Leaning forward, he caught Ronnie's eye in the rearview mirror. "Ronnie, I hate to ask, but could we make a quick stop?" "I'm starving," Andrew said. Amelia, who had been gazing out the window, turned to him with concern. "Oh, darling, we should have thought of that. There's a little diner a few blocks from here. We could stop and get you something proper to eat." Andrew glanced at Louisa, peacefully asleep in her car seat, her tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. Shaking his head, he smiled. "No, that's all right. I'd rather not delay getting Louisa home. She's so small, and a crowded diner isn't the best idea right now." Amelia reached over, squeezing his hand with a mix of love and something he couldn't quite place. Was it anxiety? "You're already such a thoughtful father," she said softly. Andrew turned back to Ronnie. "Could you find a gas station or convenience store? I'll grab something quick to eat in the car." Ronnie nodded. "Of course, Mr. Collins. There's one about a mile ahead." As they pulled into the gas station, the fluorescent lights flickered to life in the growing dusk. Andrew stepped out of the car, stretching his legs. "I'll be right back," he said through the open window. "Does anyone need anything?" Amelia hesitated, biting her lip. "Could you pick up some formula? I'm worried about my breast milk not coming in yet." Andrew nodded, hiding his surprise to avoid adding to her stress. "Of course, honey. I'll get it." The bell above the door chimed as Andrew entered the store. The harsh lighting and hum of the refrigerators were a stark contrast to the warm dimness of the car. He ordered a coffee and a hot dog from the bored attendant before wandering the aisles. Reaching the baby care section, he paused, the reality of his new role as a father hitting him anew. Picking up a can of formula, he turned it over, reading the label. Suddenly, a memory flashed in his mind, the prescription from the hospital. In all the commotion with the homeless woman, they'd forgotten to pick up Amelia's medication. Cursing under his breath, Andrew hurried back to the car, juggling the coffee, hot dog, and formula. "I'm so sorry, honey," he said, climbing in. We forgot to grab your prescription at the hospital. Amelia's eyes widened briefly, a flicker of fear crossing her face before she composed herself. Oh, right, the prescription. Lucia leaned forward, her brow furrowed. What medication is it, dear? We might have it at one of our pharmacy branches. Andrew fished out the crumpled prescription and squinted at it in the dim light. It's mostly standard meds, but the antibiotic is specifically for breastfeeding women. We can't substitute it. Lucia patted his knee reassuringly. It's all right, dear. Better to get it now than worry later. Ronnie cleared his throat. Shall I turn us around, Mr. Collins? Andrew nodded, his gaze drifting to Louisa. Yes, let's get this sorted so we can finally get home.